This is Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here on the Comic Culture Warrior YouTube channel. We've had plenty of Marvel talk, so let's talk a little DC, because this past week...
Look what finally came out!
Detective Comics, What Happened to the Cape Crusader, Part 2 by Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert. The first issue was a really great setup, and I'm really looking forward to what happens in this issue. I haven't read it yet, but I'm kind of hearing mixed reviews about it. I'm hearing some stuff, and I think, well, the continuity aside, Neil Gaiman has already come out and said continuity is something that you use if it helps you, or disregard if it's not part of your story. So I guess he was getting a lot of some criticism about that. Is that valid? Are there continuity issues with this particular issue? Or is this like an Elseworlds? I mean, it feels like an Elseworlds to me.
That's what the first issue was, and that's why I didn't mind it, because every story, it's a different reality. It's different. It's Batman's life in different realities. Right. Is pretty much what it was. So yeah, I got a feeling it was all Elseworld stuff, because even in here they continue the funeral, and like in the first panel here, and like the first page, I mean, you have Frank Miller's Dark Knight, then you have Kelly Jones's Red Rain. Batman. So I mean, it's changing, and each villain and Batwoman, original
the old
Batwoman,
right?
They're all telling different stories about how Batman died in all these different versions. So yeah, I mean, it does have a very Elseworldy feel, very much so. But all right, as much as I loved the first issue, I didn't hate this issue, but I didn't really like it either, because after the first issue, the first part, the premise was, I liked it. It was well written. The stories, there was 3 separate small stories in that one issue, which took up about 6 pages each. So you kind of got a little bit. In this, you're just getting like 3 or 4 panels of people talking, like Ra's al Ghul and Clayface and Batwoman and Mad Hatter, Joker. So the stories are shorter and shorter as you're going. And Superman tells his story, and then you find out who Bruce Wayne was talking to in the first part of it, because he was having a conversation with somebody. He's like, "Am I dead?" You find out who he was talking to, and yeah, all right, I guess that was all right. I don't know. It's like, even in the art, and I understand Kubert was trying to emulate a lot of other artists through different eras, but even like the regular, like when he tries to draw like the regular Batman in this wherever other reality, it doesn't really even look like Kubert's stuff. I mean, the art's just not there for me. Whereas it was very well put together in the first part of this story. And then, I mean, for purists of Batman, yeah, there's some cool continuity stuff, especially this last this last page with the Good Night stuff. If you who all read this, you understand. And then it kind of comes full circle with the very ending of the story, which I'm not gonna. It's not really a big spoiler, but I'm not gonna show you guys or talk to it. But it just felt, this issue felt kind of too rushed. Like there wasn't that depth of story that was in the first part. You know, and that's kind of what I wanted. I just wanted a continuation of the feeling and the tone of the first part, and it just kind of petered down the further and further I got along in this book. So, like I said, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it nearly as much as I was hoping to.
Well, the thing with Neil Gaiman, too, is, and I've kind of run into this with a lot of his stories. I mean, he comes up with great ideas, and the setup for his ideas are pretty superb. It's following through. When you finally get to the end of his story, you're like, wow, you know, that was a joke where telling the joke was better than the actual punchline. You know, I've run into that a lot, and I even more so in his prose work. You know, I remember reading Good Omens and thinking, wow, this book, you put him and Terry Pratchett together, it's got to be great. And when I got to the end of Good Omens, I was like, wow, that's it? That was the end? And I know there are a lot of Neil Gaiman or Gaiman fanatics out there who are going to take me to task for not being impressed with it, but sorry, I just wasn't. So, this book in and of itself doesn't affect continuity, right? It's just two things. I'm looking.
It affects continuity as much as whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Exactly right. So this is kind of the Batman version of whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, just much like
but not
Alan
nearly
Moore's.
as good. Unfortunately, it's pretty hard to top the Alan Moore.
Yeah, that Alan Moore story was closing the book on an era of Superman. This is kind of like bridging Batman eras right now.
Pretty much.
So, all right. So, meh. The book was meh, considering how much hype and again how long you had to wait for it.
Yeah.
For the delay.
Maybe that was another part too. Is just like I was actually waiting, and then it just didn't live up to the wait.
Didn't live up to the wait. All right.
Or the hype that I had put in my mind during the waits.
All right. So let's end this segment on that, and when we come back, we want to revisit a couple topics that you folks have brought up. We'll see you then.